Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the start of the 2033 playoffs. The Yankees won the American League East with the best record in baseball, so we will have home field advantage for as long as we can stay alive. Looking at the goals from ownership for this year, wanted to reach the playoffs. We've obviously done that. Wanted us to upgrade at catcher. Drew Romo is a bit of an upgrade. Improved from 14th to 5th in the league in stolen bases. Next year, our goal is to have over 49,800 attendance. We're above that now. And we were expected or asked to increase profit. We have not quite achieved that goal. Obviously, it will be dependent on whether we go on a long postseason run with multiple postseason series will certainly help us potentially generate more money. Right now, we're a little bit under for the year. But we are excited to finally be out of that wild card game. Have lost in the wild card game in the American League 4 consecutive years. So we will finally break that streak this season one way or the other. No real big changes thinking about our playoff roster. Pretty much going to go with the team that brought us here. Christian Javier is still hurt for a couple weeks. He could potentially get back at some point for us. Jose Montoya is out with that fractured hand for another week, so hopefully we will have him back for the next round of the playoffs if we are able to win. Replacing him on the roster at this point is Kevin Blunt. If and when Montoya is back, Blunt would be the most likely person that we would send down. And then our center fielder, Mike Grimes, is out with a torn ACL for 6 months, so he clearly has no chance of being back for the playoffs. The youngster Eric Cares has taken over for him in center field. Good defensive center fielder, but not much of a hitter. We actually kind of would wish that our manager would be playing Brian Reynolds still in center, although he's not very good anymore. We'd rather have Gabe Cologne's bat be in the lineup and then potentially be bringing Eric Cares in as a defensive substitute, but that is not the lineup that Colin Cowgill chooses right now, and it is his decision. So we will start simming and see who we are going to be playing shortly. And our divisional rivals, the Baltimore Orioles, who had beat us in the AL East for 4 consecutive seasons, will be who we get to play in the divisional series as they won in the playoffs against the Astros. So Yankees against the Orioles starting tomorrow in New York. And for game 1 of the series, Bobby Chappa, the former Yankees farmhand who we had traded away for Christian Javier several years ago, traded away a top prospect to bring him back to the team this year, and he has slotted in as our number 1 starter. Had a really good first year in pinstripes, going 14-6 with a 2.93 ERA. Going to be going up against Andy Comins, who was 11-5 with a 4.82 ERA. Looks like he's also battling sinusitis, so interesting choice for Baltimore to put him out in game 1. Can see just a great season for the Yankees. Second best offense in the American League and the best pitching staff in the American League, first in runs allowed. Baltimore is also very good, 4th in runs scored and 3rd in runs against, but we are better than them across the board. We beat them in the division, and we were 10-9 against them in the regular season. So hopefully we can keep the momentum going and get some wins here and move on to the ALCS. Game 1, not a good result though. A loss for the Yankees of 4-2 to start off the series. So definitely disappointing. Chappa was okay, 2 earned runs in 5 innings, but then got into the bullpen and so definitely disappointing. Luis Ortiz, who was kind of a player who had a rough regular season and we thought about leaving off of the playoff roster, ended up costing us, got the loss. So disappointing start to the playoffs for the Yankees, that is for sure, but move on and see what happens tomorrow. Looking at the matchup here, we've got Joe Rock, who 5-7 record with a 4.65 ERA, going against Tyson Neighbors, 16-8 with a 3.19 ERA for us. So again, the Yankees, at least on paper, are a big favorite. Need to take this second game before we head to Baltimore. And the Orioles defeat us again 4-3. So very disappointing start to the playoffs for these Yankees. Down 2-0 with both of the games having been at home. Could be a quick exit from the playoffs. We've been lamenting the fact that we were playing those one-game playoffs, but with the way we're playing, wouldn't matter if we were in a best-of-1 or a best-of-51 series at this point. Game 3, Jack Leiter, who had a better year for us in his second season with the Yankees, 9-4 with a 3.54 ERA, going against Matthew Champion. Only pitched 13 games, 6-1 with a 2.40 ERA for the Orioles, as the Yankees try to avoid the season ending here on October 17th. And we did get a 9-0 win, so a good game for the Yankees. Drew Romo and Dave Bravo, both with home runs. They also hit a pair of homers in the Game 1 loss, so still have a lot of work to do, but at least got a W in the first playoff game here in Baltimore. And now Game 4, the Orioles, Joe Rock on the mound. Oh, they're using the opener for us. Interesting, because he was their starter not too long ago. We've got Kindon Lavelle, free agent acquisition from last offseason, went 14-4 with a 3.57 ERA for the Yankees, so hopefully can turn the tables on Baltimore and win 2 straight on their turf and get to a final game back at Yankee Stadium. And we are going to be headed back, a 6-5 win for the Yankees. Scored in the 9th, broke a 5-5 tie. Drew Romo 3-for-4 with a homer and 2 doubles and a solo home run in the 9th to put us on top. So Romo, the excellent defensive catcher, is having a really good series for us. Lavelle did not have a good series for us, gave up 5 runs in the first inning, but the Yankees still came back to win. So we are headed to Game 5 back in New York, and our friend Jose Montoya is eligible to come off of the injured list. That is very good news for the Yankees. I don't know. I think if we bring him back now, we will lose Kevin Blunt for the next series, but I am going to try to do that because the thought would be that we would have our friend Kevin Blunt out for Montoya anyway, so if we can do that, we're going to try to. Roster moves not allowed in the middle of a playoff series. I thought they could be for some reason. Maybe if there's an injury. Oh, regardless, would obviously love to have Montoya back for the 5th game, but it is what it is. We've won 2 in a row without him. Hopefully we can make it 3 in a row. Jesus Valdez on the mound for Baltimore, 9-5 with a 3.65 ERA, and the Yankees ace Bobby Chappa back in to hopefully get a little bit of redemption from Game 1. Game 1, as I mentioned earlier, Chappa 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched. Didn't pitch poorly, but the Yankees didn't get the victory. So hopefully we can get the win in Game 5 of this American League Division Series. And the Yankees have come back to take the series 3-2 and move on to the American League Championship Series for the first time in quite a while. Drew Romo, not surprisingly, was the MVP. Looking at the box score for this final game, Romo, not as much going on here, 0-for-4, even though he got the MVP award. 3 homers and 6 ribbies for the series, the same stats that Shiku Shu also put up. And Chappa with a nice game, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. Abreu came on and gave up a run, but then a 2-inning save for Tim Wallace, and he was perfect, striking out 3 over those 2 innings. So the Yankees are on to the ALCS, and who will we be facing? we will be facing the Los Angeles Angels, who defeated the Minnesota Twins. The Angels were a 99-win team, so a very tiny upset of them to beat the Twins, who won 100 games during the regular season. So now that we are between playoff series, we'll say thank you to Kevin Blunt for his contribution so far this season, but Jose Montoya back into the lineup for the Yankees. Looking at what Colin Cowgill wants to do in the lineup as we head into the ALCS. Montoya back at second base, batting fifth in the lineup, so it'll be nice to get that bat back into the lineup for us on a regular basis as he is recovered. Checking in on Christian Javier. Still think it's unlikely we're going to have much from him 1 week away. So if we made it to the World Series, potentially could have him back. Just not sure if it's the wisest thing to have a fragile 36-year-old pitcher come off of the injured list in late October and go right into playoff baseball without any kind of minor league potential to get a little rehab assignment. And we are ready for the start of the American League Championship Series here in New York. Tyson Neighbors going for the Yankees, and Trevor Rogers, former Yankee. We let him go as a free agent, and actually Kindon Lavelle, who will be pitching in Game 4, we picked up as a free agent when we let Rogers go as a free agent last season, and then we also made the trade for Bobby Chapa. So the two players who are replacing Rogers will get to go in this series against the Angels, but it's going to be Tyson Neighbors for the Yankees in game number 1. Hopefully we can defeat our former teammate. And a good start for the Yankees with a 7-5 victory in game 1. Jose Montoya comes off of the injured list in homers in his first game back, and Eric Cares, the young center fielder, also homered for us. As I mentioned, I haven't been thrilled that he has been playing center field every day, but he did well for us in Game 1 of the series to give us a 1-0 lead. Moving on to Game 2, Jack Leiter on the mound for the Yankees against Tim Kretsch. 10-12 this year with a 4.55 ERA. Ooh, ugly game, 12-8, a lot of scoring. Home runs for the Yankees from Bichette, Shue, and Cares with his second of the series, but a rough pitching game for the Yankees. Leiter with 5 earned runs, 6 total in 3 2/3. Castillo got bombed with 4 runs in 2 innings, and then Luis Ortiz again, 2 earned runs in an inning and a third. May have to think about taking Ortiz off of the playoff roster if we are fortunate enough to make it to the World Series. Oh, and it looks like Luis Ortiz was injured while pitching, so perhaps we will have an opportunity to get him out of there. Injury diagnosis pending, so that is probably going to be Ortiz's last action for us this season. Have not got a diagnosis on Ortiz yet as we head to Los Angeles in a 1-1 tie. Our ace, Bobby Chapa, on the mound for us, going against Jackson Potast. 10-4 record with a 3.58 ERA for the Angels this year, and a 6-3 loss for the Yankees. So we are down 2-1. Unlikely that Chapa had a very good game. Ooh, brutal game actually. 5 runs, 3 earned over an inning and 2/3. After that, the bullpen did pretty well, but we had staked out the Angels to a big lead. So things are getting dangerous for the Yankees, down 2-1. But we were down 2-0 to the Orioles and came back and won. So no reason we can't do it again here. And Christian Javier is now eligible to come off of the IL, and still waiting for the diagnosis on Luis Ortiz. Interesting. Well, before we decide that, we've got Game 4 to play. Joe Ellwanger, 8-4 record, and a 5.20 ERA for the Angels. Looks like he came over from Cincinnati, or maybe he was released by Cincinnati because he was 0-2 with a 7.39 ERA for them. So not an impressive season for him. Kindon Lavelle, our free agent acquisition, going to be on the mound for the Yankees. Hadn't mentioned this before, but the Angels, a good offense, third in the league in scoring, sixth in runs against. So hopefully our offense will score some runs today for us. And a 12-7 win for the Yankees with home runs from Victor Mejias and Dave Bravo. Critical Game 5 coming up tomorrow in Los Angeles. Javier still eligible to come off the DL, and Luis Ortiz, partially torn UCL, out for 7 months. So, yes, he clearly will not be pitching for us anymore this season. The question is whether he'll be back with us next season. So, looking at the playoff roster now, we are going to see if we can get Ortiz off of the roster. Yeah, that's fine if he misses the following series. And I guess we will bring Javier back. I can't imagine he's going to go right into the rotation, but I hope he doesn't go right into the rotation because he's been out for several months. I can't imagine he's got a lot of stamina. Let's see how Cowgill is thinking about it, and he wants Javier to be our third starter. So Chapa, Neighbors, Javier, and Leiter. So that means that he is bouncing Lavelle out of his rotation, at least for the time being, although Lavelle just pitched. So interesting. Well, we may see what Javier has in the tank in Game 6. We may regret bringing him right back from the long injury in the injured list to the ALCS, but before we see what happens with that, we'll see what happens in Game 5 going up against the former Yankee Trevor Rogers. Hopefully we can get a win against him again. He started Game 1, and we got a win in that one. And Los Angeles beat us. Rogers gets the W, so the Angels are up on us now 3-2 before we get ready to head back to New York. So backs against the wall for the Yankees here on October 27th, 2033. And backs are really going to be up against the wall with Christian Javier, who has been out most of the season, started 6 games for us, went 3-0 with a 2.20 ERA, and then suffered that injury that cost him most of the season. Who knows what we are going to get from him here in Game 6 of the ALCS in the Bronx. And we did not get much. The Angels beat us 7-1. Javier was, not surprisingly, not good. 3 earned runs over 3 innings pitched, and was probably spent at that point. May have been the wrong decision to put him back on the roster. I really didn't think we would actually be using him as a starter. I thought maybe we would kind of let him come back a little gently as a reliever in a blowout or something, but didn't get that opportunity, and it was the decision of the manager how we were going to use him, so it was my fault for putting him on the roster. If he hadn't been there, Cowgill wouldn't have been able to use him. So a better season for the Yankees than the last 4, where we were knocked out in the wild card round each year. Won the AL East, best record in baseball at 106-56, but still fell short of our ultimate goal, which as always is to win the World Series, with a 4-2 loss to the Angels here in the ALCS. And a real bummer for the Yankees to not be in the World Series, because a 89 win wild card team, the Washington Nationals, has made it into the World Series for the National League. You can see their pitching staff allowed the 11th most runs in the NL this season. So, 11th most. Well, they were 11th in runs against their pitching, so not particularly good. So I would think that the Angels, with their 99 wins, are a pretty significant favorite to take the World Series over the Nationals this year. Our scout is still working hard, picking up 16-year-olds who are greedy, poor leaders, bad loyalty, unadaptable, and don't have much of a work ethic. And back to the World Series. Let's see how things go over the next week. And As expected, the Nationals did not put up much of a match against the Angels. The Angels win 4-1. So would like to think if we had been fortunate enough to get by the Angels, we may have won also, but we are not going to use revisionist history like Brian Cashman has recently, talking about the 2017 Yankees being robbed by the Astros in the World Series. Clearly, we were not good enough to make it to the World Series this year, and that is the reason why the Angels are the world champions rather than the Yankees in 2033. Looking at ownership goals as we get near the end of the year, we actually did pretty good. Made the playoffs, upgraded at catcher, better in steals, and we ended up making over $16 million with the 2 rounds of the playoffs. Not quite the $25 million that ownership was looking for, but looks like they're probably going to be reasonably content with that. We'll take a quick look now at some of the statistics for us. As I mentioned, it was a really good year for the Yankees. You can see we were first, second, or third in just about every team batting category, 4th in home runs, 10th in walks, plus 30.4, first in the AL in base running. So just a really strong offensive season for the Yankees. And pitching also excellent, first in ERA, first in starter ERA, least runs allowed, least hits allowed, fewest walks allowed, and also very good defensively. So a brilliant regular season for the Yankees. Obviously a bit of a disappointing playoff appearance to not make it to the World Series, but at least we won a round in the playoffs for the first time in several seasons. So hopefully getting some of the young players a little bit of postseason experience will pay dividends down the road for this team. Moving to some of the offensive stats, Bo Bichette has a $30 million player option heading into this offseason. He's 35 years old. He's fragile, but coming off an excellent year, 18 homers, 76 ribbies, batted .325 with a 134 OPS plus, 7.2 WAR for the season, is still an excellent defensive shortstop. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he opts in. Jose Montoya would have loved to see what he would have done this year if he hadn't gotten injured for the last few weeks of the season. Played 141 games, put up a 131 WAR. He is a former scouting discovery of ours over a decade ago who has grown up in our system and become an excellent second and third baseman for us, depending on where we need him any given day. Those two were far and away the Yankees' leaders in WAR. Shiku Shu, 34-year-old right fielder who we have signed to an extension for the next 4 years, had another Shiku Shu season, 30 homers, 108 ribbies, 287 average, 131 OPS plus. He is an incredibly consistent and productive player. Mike Grimes would have loved to see what he could have done in a full season and would have loved to have him playing center field for us for a full year. We'll likely get that opportunity next year because Brian Reynolds we will not be bringing back. Going to be 39 years old next season. Had a really good year, 27 homers, 102 runs batted in, 129 OPS plus. Right now we don't have any room for him. His demand, any salary room for him. His salary demand has gone down a little bit. He was about $22.5 million several months ago, so he's looking for a little less now. But there's really no way that we can bring him back unless we shift a lot of other things around. But that's okay because Gabe Cologne is going to take right over for Reynolds. The 23-year-old recently turned 23, only hit 288 at-bats for us this year, and you can see only started 65 games. But he was excellent offensively, putting up a 156 OPS plus. Obviously wish that our manager had played him a lot more frequently, but he will be stepping right into the hole in the lineup created by Reynolds' departure. Drew Romo, who we traded for in the offseason, Nice addition. 251 batting average, 15 homers, 55 ribbies, 2.5 WAR for the season, 102 WRC plus, 96 OPS plus. You look at his catcher ability and his catcher arm, and presumably he is generating most of his value as an excellent defensive catcher, and hopefully also helping out our pitching staff to put up better numbers by framing pitches and being just a great backstop. Dave Bravo, the first baseman, 19 homers, 69 ribbies, hit 268. Nick Gonzalez, utility infielder, batted only 236 this year. Big disappointment, Jared Kelenic. His contract, could be getting problematic for us. We've got 2 more years with him at $24 million a year. His first 2 seasons with the Yankees have not really been all that impressive. Put up a 103 OPS plus last year and a 92 OPS plus this year. Only a 0.9 WAR. So clearly not what we were hoping to be getting from him offensively the last couple of seasons. We'll have to see what we decide to do with him going forward. A couple other players to touch upon briefly. Kevin Blunt was up and down between the Yankees and Scranton, hit 252 in 230 at-bats. Tristan Casas also got some playing time for us. Was a starter last year, was more of a super utility guy this year, 259 at-bats, 15 homers, but only a 220 batting average. And then Victor Mejias, another youngster that we hope to get more playing time for next year, still ranked the number 60 prospect in baseball, was up for us the full year and hit 313, although his OPS was only 92 plus, was only 92, WAR of just 0.4. We used him at second, third, and shortstop. Was not particularly effective defensively at third or shortstop. Versatile defensive player who can play a lot of different positions, but his infield range is certainly not ideal for a shortstop or even a second baseman for that matter. Other than that, those are kind of the key players. Eric Cares, who came up and played center field for us after the injury to Grimes, did not hit at all, batted just 202, but is a pretty solid defensive center fielder. So can't get on the manager too much for giving him some playing time in the outfield. Turning to the pitching staff, we've talked about our ace, Bobby Chapa, 14-6 with a 2.93 ERA. Definitely a strong candidate for the Cy Young Award. Led the league in games started, ERA, WHIP, and innings pitched. 162 ERA plus, 62 FIP minus, and a 6 WAR. So Chapa should certainly be getting some votes for the Cy Young Award. Tyson Neighbors tied for the league lead with 16 wins, went 16-8 with a 149 ERA plus, the fewest walks per 9 in the American League, so a really nice year for him. Kindon Lavelle, the free agent signing, 14-4, 133 ERA plus for him, so another nice year. Other than Javier, the pitchers were really healthy. You can see Jack Leiter also 9-4 with a 2.7 WAR. And then Euricio Castillo only put up a 0.7 WAR. But once Javier went on the injured list, he stepped back into the rotation and ended up tied for the league lead in wins with 16, even though he started only 24 games. So it was great to have him as an insurance policy when we were without our starter there for a while. Looking at the bullpen, we mentioned earlier Tim Wallace, 41 saves, the most WAR out of any of our bullpen pitchers, 2.1. Max Alba with a 1.3 WAR, solid year. Javier, as I mentioned, had the injuries and then obviously didn't pitch that well for us in the Game 6 loss in the ALCS. Daniel Salas, another solid year, 7-3, 2 saves, 3.54 ERA. biggest disappointment, other than Ortiz, who I mentioned, who had some rough playoff games for us, was Ken Thomas. He had been a pretty good pitcher for us through the years, still had a 110 ERA plus, but his FIP minus was 117, WAR minus .8. Interesting to figure out what we're going to do with him. His salary is only $950,000 this year, headed to arbitration. Only expected to be about $1.5 million next year, so will likely be back with us. Hopefully we'll get a better season out of him next year than this year. So with that, we will call this episode a wrap. In our next episode, we will review all of the off-season excitement, whether we do end up with any award winners, and then what we decide to do to potentially change the Yankees as we get ready for next year. And that's assuming that ownership wants us back. I guess I'll wait a day or two and find out and let you know. I won't give you the cliffhanger. We've obviously had a very good year, but we've been on a 1-year contract for 4 years in a row. There is a chance at some point that ownership just is sick of us meeting their profitability goals, since extreme profit is a huge priority for them. And not surprisingly, Bo Bichette has voided his last contract year, so he will be a free agent. It'd be interesting to see how much he'll get at that age, but we'll open up a huge void in our lineup to miss the guy who has played shortstop with us for most of the past decade after a trade with the Blue Jays when they were out of contention and dumping salary. Need to make option decisions on Tristan Casas and Nick Gonzalez. Kreider is generally happy with our performance this year. Made it into the playoffs, improved at catcher, talked about the stolen bases, attendance is up. Profit is not what he wanted, but he's content with it. Still hoping for more from us, but overall happy with our performance. He wants us to cut payroll again, so we aren't going to be making him happy on that front. We've got $322 million available for expenses. He's increased our budget, and that would allow us a payroll of about $260 million. But you can see he wants us to be at $190 million. So he's going to be disappointed with what we do on that front. He did end up giving us a 3-year contract extension at $1.6 million a year. So for the first time in several years, we're not going to be a lame duck. Unfortunately for Mr. Kreider and his fiscally responsible ways, that's just going to empower me to spend a lot of money on free agents. So it's going to be a busy offseason for the Yankees. We're going to have to decide what to do at shortstop with Bo Bichette. Do we try to bring him back after he voided the last year of his contract? And then Brian Reynolds is going to be gone too. As we've talked about, the move away from Reynolds is a lot simpler for us since we've got a great guy to take over for him in Gabe Cologne. So that one is not as interesting as finding a shortstop. I love Montoya. Talked about his great year. He could potentially slide over there. He's not as good defensively as Bo Bichette was, but he is certainly a better than average defensive shortstop. So that may be what we end up doing. So it will be a very different Yankees team for the 2034 season, and in our next episode, we're going to show you how we build that team and get there. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.